Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotee. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotee.
Hare Krishna. If you like.
Sure. Thank you.
Warm, cold?
Without
bubbles? No, I usually nobody drinks cold water these days. Do you want me to put it in the cup?
Sure. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 54. And I'll go ahead and start by reciting the verse. Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
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 Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Please go ahead and recite.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Gopyaschati priyadritaha.
Gopyaschati priyadrita. Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
Aikanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Tadvismita gopa.
Shrutva tadvismita gopa.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Gopyaschati priyadrita.
Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
Pretyagatamivotsukyad.
Aikshanta trishite kshana.
Aikshanta trishite kshana. Would any Mataji's like to recite? It's okay.
Mita gopa.
Gopyaschati priyadrita. Pretyagatamivotsukyad. Aikshanta trishite kshana. Shrutva tadvismita gopya. Gopyaschati priyadrita. Pretyagatamivotsukyad. Aikshanta trishite kshana. Okay, word for word translation. Shrutva. After hearing. Tat. These incidents. Vismitaha. Being struck with wonder. Gopaha. The cowherd man. Gopyacha. And their respective wives. Ati priya adritaha. Received the news. With great transcendental pleasure.
great transcendental pleasure.
Pretya agatam eva,
Pretya agatam eva,
thought that it was
thought that it was
as if the boys
as if the boys
had returned from death.
had returned from death.
Utsukyat,
Utsukyat,
with great eagerness.
great eagerness.
Aikshanta
Vaikshanta
began to look upon the boys.
began to look upon the boys.
Trishita ikshanaha,
Trishita Ikshanaha,
with full satisfaction.
with full satisfaction.
They did not want
They did not want
to turn their eyes
to turn their eyes
from Krishna and the boys.
from Krishna and the boys.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the cowherd men and women heard about the killing of Bakasura in the forest, they were very much astonished. Upon seeing Krishna and hearing the story, they received Krishna very eagerly, thinking that Krishna and the other boys had returned from the mouth of death. Thus they looked upon Krishna and the boys with silent eyes, not wanting to turn their eyes aside now that the boys were safe. Purport. Because of intense love for Krishna, the cowherd men and women simply remained silent, thinking of how Krishna and the boys had been saved. The cowherd men and women looked upon Krishna and the boys and did not desire to turn their eyes aside. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurudiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raguna Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakam Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gauragi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the translation one more time. When the cowherd men and women heard about the killing of Bakasura in the forest, they were very much astonished. Upon seeing Krishna and hearing the story, they received Krishna very eagerly, thinking that Krishna and the other boys had returned from the mouth of death. Thus they looked upon Krishna and the boys with silent eyes, not wanting to turn their eyes aside now that the boys were safe. Before trying to speak, I'd like to request the blessings of all the Vaishnavas assembled today and Vaishnavis. Please kindly bless me that I can say something that will purify me and be of benefit to everybody who hears it, and which is faithful to the disciplic succession of spiritual masters. So it's a little difficult to speak on these 10th canto verses because a lot of them have, some pastime, and then there's some emotional aspect of the devotees being described, and a lot of them are quite well beyond my level of ability to speak on or understand what to speak of, actually have realization about. But I'll take a couple of little jumping off points so that I can speak about something that is maybe a little bit more relatable to me. I can't say so much about the depth of the emotions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan as they're experiencing different pastimes with Krishna. But here, one thing that did stand out to me is that when the cowherd men and women were hearing about this pastime of Krishna that had just unfolded, because Krishna had just been swallowed up by Bakasura, and then he burned his way out of Bakasura's mouth because Bakasura couldn't tolerate the heat, intense heat that Krishna produced, and then Krishna just grabbed him by the beaks and bifurcated him, split him in half like a blade of grass. And just after that, Balaram and all the boys, they were so happy to see that Krishna was safe and was okay, and they immediately went and hugged him and received him. And then right after that, then they all ran back to Vrindavan, and they were very eager. The cowherd boys were very eager to tell these pastimes to the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. So that was their motivation for running back to where the village was. So that was the first thing that they did. And when the cowherd men and women heard this, Shrutva, after hearing, then it says, Ati Priya Adrita. They received the news with great transcendental pleasure. So just by hearing this incident between Krishna and Bakasura from the mouths of the cowherd boys, they felt great transcendental pleasure by hearing that news. And so I was just thinking of the importance of hearing. Hearing, as we all know well, is the first of the 9 processes of devotional service. There's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and 9 processes altogether. It starts with hearing, and then chanting, then remembering Krishna, remembering and chanting about Krishna, and remembering Krishna, and then there's serving Krishna, serving the deities, offering obeisances, praying to Krishna, and so on. And but hearing is a very essential practice in devotional service. And in fact, practically our whole destiny in life is determined by what we hear and how we hear. Somebody who's, for example, interested in being successful in the business world they'll decide to hear as much as they can and read as much as they can about how to be successful in business, and that will define their whole existence. Somebody who takes association with persons who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, and is always hearing them speak about drugs and speak about this and that, topics in the modes of ignorance, then they naturally become in the mode of ignorance. And by the process of hearing about Krishna, hearing about transcendental topics, then we go in the direction of spiritual consciousness. The heart is purified of material desires, and we want more and more to serve Krishna. So basically, whatever we hear about, that's where we'll go. And whatever we hear about, that's what we'll talk about also. And our talking also determines our direction in life. The tongue is even compared to the rudder of a boat. At the back of the boat, there's this little piece of wood that just goes a little bit in this direction or a little bit in this direction when the captain is moving the steering wheel. And if it just moves slightly this way, the boat will start to turn that way, and it will end up in a completely different direction than if it had just stayed straight, even just a slight degree. And so this rudder of the boat is compared to the tongue, that how we use our tongue, how we vibrate the tongue, what quality of vibrations we make with the tongue, that's like that rudder that's going to completely determine the direction that we go in. So then hearing and chanting, it's not just important in devotional service, it's practically the fundamental principle of one's direction in life, even in the material world as well. And so to give another example of this power that hearing has and chanting has, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mat chitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi ata chetvam ahankaran na shrosyasi vinankshasi. So this verse states that this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and he says, if you become conscious of me, if you become Krishna conscious, then by my grace you will cross over all the obstacles of conditioned life. And in the second line, Krishna uses the word hearing, shrotavya. So Krishna says, but if on the other hand you act out of false ego instead, not hearing me, then you will be